The 2027 Edge class is one of the more underrated positions in this year's draft class. Today, we'll be giving you guys a preview of some big names and giving you guys our top 10 edge rushers in the 2027 Edge Rush class. All right, guys, similar to wide receiver video, we're going to be doing just a couple big names, and we'll get to our top 10 here in just a little bit. We're going to start off with Mateo Uiagalelei. Mateo Uiagalelei is somebody to know in the 2027 NFL draft, somebody who was a four-ish, five-star recruit, depending on the service, commits to the Oregon Ducks, has been there for a while, and has been one of the more productive players in college football since then. Last year, had 6 sacks. The year prior, had 10.5 sacks. 2023, 2 sacks. So we're talking about somebody who's been very productive. It's felt like every single year the guy's just gotten better and better and better. And in this past year for Oregon, one of the better teams in college football, as we all know, I thought Mateo took another big step forward. 6'5", 272 pounds, somebody who can play a little bit on the inside, specifically for Oregon's going to play a lot of that end role in a 4-3, stuff like that. I think that there's a lot of uses and versatility to this guy at the NFL level. Depending on how you want to run your defense, I think he fits most defenses. A lot to like about his game. Strong at the point of attack, firm anchor. I think his pass rush is still developing. A lot of what he relies on now is just the natural athleticism and physical gifts he has, because he's got good hands. He's got long length to him. He's got good bend around the corner, good burst and stuff like that. But he doesn't have like the counters quite down yet. He doesn't have a deep tool bag he can get to, which is fine because he has the athleticism and physicality to do it all by himself. But if he wants to take that next step to really put his name into the top of this year's class, he's going to have to work on his hands. He's going to have to work on getting more counters and having more go-to moves to get at. But right out the gates, I think you're getting a high-end run defender who offers a lot of upside. When you are somebody who's 6'5", 272 pounds, that stuff translates. That stuff definitely does. And you look at, for example, a DeMarcus Lawrence in the NFL, somebody who's longer, lengthier, a bit more size. He was able to develop that pass rush nuance to where by the time he finished off in Dallas and then went to the Seahawks, he had a pretty good set of moves he can go to, right? His bread and butter, his calling card was the run defense, was setting the edge, was being nasty and physical. That's what I think Mateo is going to be. But I think he could be somebody who could get 8.5 to 10 sacks a season just off of effort, using those physical gifts, and at some point learning a move or a move or two here and there to really grow that stuff out. But he's getting better year in and year out. The Big Ten has real competition. And by the way, Mateo has a teammate, Tatum, who's also pretty good. But I thought Mateo consistently outplayed him. Even in that Indiana game where Indiana put the beating on Oregon, I thought Mateo looked pretty sharp in that game. As of right now, on 1st and 10, he is our 16th ranked player. He is our 3rd ranked edge rusher on the system. So somebody to keep an eye out. Highly productive and should be in for a big year. Let's bring in B-Ross. B-Ross, we see him pretty closely, but what are your thoughts on Mateo Uiagalelei?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. His versatility due to his size and length helps him, in my opinion, in terms of just creating pressure on a consistent basis, because he's not a nuanced pass rusher in terms of moves, but he knows how to use his strength and power at the point of attack. He knows how to create pressure in the midst of just, being like an above average athlete. Like he's not very explosive or twitchy or anything like that. Kind of stiff, but he's big, he's strong, he's powerful, and he uses that to his advantage. Where I really liked him was when he would get matchups on guards and slide inside a little bit.
Sweet.
I actually think like he's going to make a good portion of his money being an interior pass rusher. Like he reminds me of a guy we have in Green Bay, Kobe Wooden, went to Auburn, 6'5", he's like a big end, undersized D tackle, kind of tweener body type, and like Mateo kind of falls in that role where you can put him on the edge, run down, because I think he's a really good run defender. He plays with strength at the point of attack. He can hold his ground, even though at times he plays high. He knows how to play within himself to stop the run and know how to shed blocks at the point of attack. As a pass rusher, I think at the next level, he will eat guards alive because he's used to rushing versus tackles. Guards can't block in space. That's why they play tackle. Like, that's literally why. So I think, he's a guy who has a high floor, low ceiling, but I think that ceiling is a really good football player. To your point, he should be an 8 to 10, 8 to 12 sack guy more times than not, because of his size and length. And to your point, your other point, when he learns a couple moves and have counter moves and things like that, because he doesn't have a counter, he just kind of feels things out, falls back underneath. Like he has a good feel for tackles and just the quarterback and his depth. He doesn't waste himself. Like he's a very smart pass rusher. He just doesn't have a set of moves to kind of go to. Like he doesn't have that go to step back three like a James Harden or Steph Curry. Like he doesn't have a go to move. When he gets that go to move and then a counter on that, he's going to be a problem because he's powerful, he's strong, and he constantly is in the quarterback's face. He also is very instinctive in terms of filling out screens and trick plays and things like that. Like I appreciate smart football players who aren't the best athletes because those dudes play for a long time. So Mateo is like right on track to be a really good pro.
Yeah, their game versus Texas Tech, that was a clinic for a lot of that game. He had a
Yes,
strip
it
sack
was
where he literally took the ball out of the quarterback's hand and
impressive.
almost turned it
Yeah,
into a
just
touchdown.
almost scored. Right.
And that was against Jacob Ponton, if I'm not mistaken, who is supposed to be, he's got the size, length, he's got a long way to go. That's why he wasn't in our top tens. But
Was that
I think it was against
70
him.
on the
Yeah,
right side,
70.
right
Yeah,
tackle?
I think it was
Yeah.
70.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. That's him.
but he gives a lot of flashes, and it's like it's one of these players where you buy into the physical and athletic traits, and you let him develop. He doesn't really need to develop because he's been at Oregon now for multiple seasons, and it's going to
Yep.
be another year now. So he could be a plug and play guy right away, but he's just going to continue to ascend every single year. And the best is yet to come for him. When you're looking for edge rushers, right? Especially somebody of this caliber, 4/5 star guy, big length, big size, come out of St. John Bosco. That's a big time school in California. And you
Mm-hmm.
go to a high end program like Oregon, that tells you a lot of good things about him. There's a couple other guys in this year's class, like a Kenyatta Jackson, like a Traore out of Notre Dame, bigger, not necessarily Traore, but Kenyatta specifically, bigger,
Yeah.
longer, lengthier, big time program. Mateo's way ahead of some of these other guys, and again, he's kind of he's not like a scheme dependent player. There are certain
That
players in this
too.
year's
True.
class, like Anto Saka out of I think
Out of
Northwestern going to Texas A&M.
Northwestern. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
pass rush oriented. You want this guy lined up. You're going to take him off on rundowns. He's going to be on the field on pass downs. That's not
He's
what
a
you got to do with
DPR.
Mateo.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He could be a 3-down player on a lot of different schemes. And we've seen in the NFL. Look at the Seattle Seahawks. Look at how important that defensive line was. And there wasn't a singular player on that defensive line that was a 13, 14 sack a season guy. It was working by committee, sticking into your rush lanes, and all that stuff. And just
Yeah.
having a group of guys that all are high effort, strong, athletic, lengthy. DeMarcus Lawrence is somebody who I talked about. He was on that team. I think Mateo fits the mold perfectly. And if you're a team that runs 3-4, 4-3, I like him a little bit more in a 3-4 because I like that little extra versatility he offers. But if you want to play him in a 4-3 end, it's pretty good too.
To that point, I think he'd be a good fit in Dallas. Like
I would love him. We need him.
he gives you, to your point, he gives like for CP Christian Parker who wants to do a little bit of, like be flexible up front. He gives you that flexibility. He gives you size on the edge. He gives you quickness on the inside. To me, like that. To me, that would be like an ideal fit for him because he would come in and be a plug and play player in multiple spots. He will have to learn multiple spots, but I think he would be good for it.
I don't know if he makes it to this team because I think they're going to have a pretty high draft pick. But if he can go to Seattle, I think it'd be just perfect. DeMarcus Lawrence getting older, just literally just plug Mateo into DeMarcus's role.
Yeah,
I think it'd be pretty sweet. But yeah, guys, let us know in the comment section below. Mateo Uiagalelei, where is he on your big board, and how do you think he's going to perform? Dylan Stewart might end up being the top edge in this year's draft class. He's got stiff competition with Colin Simmons, but Dylan Stewart has a lot to offer. Former 5-star recruit, 19th overall in the nation, second edge rusher in that class, commits to South Carolina and come out the gates in his freshman season just on a tear. 6.5 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss, 17 solo tackles. He follows it up the next season with a little bit of some regression, but there is a bit of a caveat there. The dude had a back injury. Dude had injuries all year long, but he still put together a pretty productive season. 4 sacks, 11.5 tackles for loss, 31 total tackles. When I watched Dylan Stewart, I thought there was going to be a pretty big gap between him and Colin Simmons. And while I still think there is a bit of a gap, I do think Dylan Stewart is in a similar category to Colin Simmons. I think Dylan Stewart offers size, length, athleticism. real bend around the corner. But a lot of Dylan Stewart right now is just kind of theoretical, right? He needs to put on a little bit more weight. He needs to be able to handle himself in the run game a bit more. He needs to use that long, wiry build that he has to his advantage a little bit more. But there's reps out there that nobody in this class can do from Dylan Stewart. Not even Colin Simmons. Simmons, 6'3", long arms, about 245, 250. He doesn't have the same size. He's about 2 inches shorter. And some of the dominant plays that you see Dylan Stewart make, Simmons has some of those on tape. I think Stewart's highs are maybe a little higher than Simmons, but the lows are also very low as well because he's still a ways away, in my opinion. I think if you're going to draft Dylan Stewart, you got to be okay with the fact that he's not a finished product, and he probably needs a year or two to continue to get better and really fill out his frame and develop. But a lot of the stuff that are concerning are fixable, right? In terms of some of the pros, elite first step explosiveness, he times things up very well. Good bend around the corner. I mean, we're talking like legitimately elite bend around the corner. Long, wiry arms, multiple pass rush counters and go-to moves. Could still add a bit more nuance to those moves, but I think he's got plenty of moves he can get to. A combination of length, speed, and size. A high-end athletic profile. And I think he's getting better and better. But had the injury last year. Can he stay healthy for a full season? I think he probably needs to pack on 10 to 15 pounds of weight and muscle to his frame. We'll see what he looks like this year for South Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised. He's listed at 245. I wouldn't be surprised if he was more at like 250 at this point, but hopefully he can continue to get bigger and bigger and stronger and still have that athleticism to pair with it. Needs to get more counters to his repertoire, and he has to be better against the run. South Carolina would take him out on rundowns, maybe because they wanted to keep him clean for passing situations, but you got to be a 3-down player if you want to make it into the top 10. Although pass rush is more what they want, but still, if you want to beat Colin Simmons for edge one, you got to be able to handle yourself against the run because Colin is a really good run defender. So that is Dylan Stewart. Again, 6'5", 245. You can make some comparisons to Brian Burns. That's what I compare him to. But I'm going to hand this over to B-Ross. B-Ross, Dylan Stewart, he is our second-ranked edge rusher on 1st and 10, inside our top 10. Where are you at with Dylan Stewart? What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he was frustrating to watch because, to your point, his highs were impressive. He can bend and he's explosive. Like, he has all the traits of a really good pass rusher. But with that are the lows that come with a lackadaisical run defender. And then, like, when he went against competent tackles, he struggled a little bit just because those guys might be bigger, longer, stronger, and he struggled. But you talk about, like, to your point, I love the fact that he can turn his ear to the ground and bend the corner. Like, it's impressive watching him rush off the edge. He's to your point, he's one of those guys where he's nowhere near a finished product. So teams are going to have to be, to me, very patient in his development because if you rush him out there because he's a high pick, I think you hurt him more than you help him. He's going to need like guys in the room with him to teach him how to do the nuanced things that you're talking about in terms of having his hands and feet kind of line up to rush the passer. But he is so impressive to watch. Like, I'm talking about explosive off the ball. His first step, him and Colin Simmons are neck and neck for just being just their get off. The difference is his get off in the run game is null and void. You don't see the same guy that you see when he's rushing the passer. Like, he looks like a kid on Christmas when he's rushing the passer, and then he looks like a kid on Christmas who got a lump of coal on in the run game. Like, to me, it's just a drastic difference. But that being said, he has the tools to be a lot better. But it starts with his ability to stay healthy, stay available, and then he has to show up in big moments for that defense. Like, he has to be the stud they need him to be. And to me, that's what really separates him and Simmons. The fact that when Colin Simmons needed to be the best player on the football field, he became the best. It was obvious. Like, we're Texas fans, so we got to see this kid from freshman year to now. Like, when he needed to be a 5-star and make a big play or stop the run, he did it. Dylan Stewart has that ability, but doesn't do that. And to me, that's the key difference in those guys. But super talented dude. You said Brian Burns. I actually don't hate that comparison. Like that's a really good comparison. I think Brian
Yeah.
Burns is maybe a little bit no coming out. He's probably around the same size.
Yeah, coming
Truthfully,
out of Florida State, I mean, very productive for multiple years there. But Brian Burns today is listed at, I'm trying to see his weight. He's listed at 6'5", 250, so about 5 pounds heavier. Granted, I mean, they probably haven't
so
weighed this guy since 5 years ago at this point, so he's probably up to like 255, 260 or something like that. But in terms of like raw ability, the ability to turn the
mm-hmm,
corner, long, lengthy, some freakish plays that nobody else can really do. I think Brian Burns kind of reminded me a little bit of him. I think Stewart is a
that's fair.
potentially better talent. I think his upside might be more than Brian Burns. But if he becomes Brian Burns, Burns is a awesome player. Burns is what,
He's damn good.
top
I
10
loved him
edge
coming
rusher in the
out.
NFL? Right.
Oh, for sure, for sure. He's a
Right.
top 10 guy. To that point, Dylan Stewart has that in his body. It's just to me, it's just a matter of like staying healthy and can he be a 3 down guy?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
you aren't a top 15 pick and you're not a 3 down guy. You know what I mean? Like you like to warrant the money that edge rushers are getting and are going to keep getting, you got to be every down. Like, every down dominance, every down player. Just to me, it's more so just his run game stuff has to improve drastically in terms of setting the edge because he can. The thing is, he can penetrate and make plays,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're talking about just doing your job, that's where he loses me in terms of just doing his job, setting the edge. He wants to pretend it's at the edge, hop inside, and the ball gets around him. Like just small nuance things in the running and pass game. And
Yeah.
he fixed those. He has a chance to be a really good football player at the next level.
Yeah. Last point I'll make on Dylan, going back to Brian Burns here for a second. Brian Burns was somebody who he's never been an elite run defender, and he's had some lows at times, but he's always been a competent run defender. Like you don't have to take him out on
Right,
rundowns. I think if you're Dylan
right.
Stewart, I don't know if you're ever going to be an elite run defender because you just don't have the size. Like 245, you can get moved around a little bit, and you want to just be more of that pass rush guy. But if you can just be competent as a run
Be a
defender,
competent run.
I
Absolutely.
mean, you'll have a conversation with Colin Simmons because Simmons is a bit more well-rounded right now, and Simmons is 6'3" instead of 6'5". He's not as tall and wiry, so Simmons is a bit more
Mm-hmm.
filled out, even though they're about the same weight. But yeah, I think Dylan Stewart's upside. I mean, he could be edge one in this class. He needs to put together a good year. I think Simmons might need to take a step back for that to happen, but it's a good conversation to be at because I think Colin Simmons, and it's not just me, I think everyone agrees, is probably going to be a top 5 pick. Dylan Stewart, though,
Yep.
has all the talent in the world. So that is Dylan Stewart. You guys let us know in the comment section below. Dylan Stewart, what are your thoughts on him? Colin Simmons, former 5-star player, commits to the Texas Longhorns and has been a menace ever since. Colin Simmons is our second-ranked player on 1st and 10, only behind Jeremiah Smith, but you can tell me that he's number one, and I won't disagree with you. In his freshman campaign, 48 total tackles, 9 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, and 2 pass deflections. Year 2, bit of a slow start, but boy, he finished it off strong. 43 total tackles, 23 solo, 12 sacks, 15 and a half tackles for loss, and 2 pass deflections. 6'3", 240, probably up to this point, 245. There's a lot to like about Colin Simmons' game and what he's done for Texas. Again, Texas has had good defensive linemen these past few years. His freshman season, they had Barron Sorrell, Green Bay Packer, and they had Ethan Burke as well. So they had 2 guys already there who had a little bit more experience than him. Colin Simmons steps in and he kind of stole the job from these guys and kind of forced himself into the rotation. 5-star player, and he's lived up to the mantle. Supremely good athlete, explosive first step off the line of scrimmage. I think he times the snap up very well. Good ankle bend, good hip flexibility, just good bend around the corner. It's really good for someone of his size. Good hand usage, has multiple go-to moves he can get to, dips, rips, clubs, spin moves. He's kind of has those all in his bag. He might need to become a bit more nuanced with them and just technically refine those things, but he has those moves to his arsenal at this point. Smart player. He reads out screens. He knows when the play action's coming his way. And I also think like against the run, he's not a scrub, right? We just talked about Dylan Stewart, how Dylan Stewart struggles against the run at times. Colin Simmons, while not an elite run defender, at least shows effort, right? You watched his game versus Vanderbilt. He had 3 straight plays where he just took over the game. So he's got a tough, feisty mentality that's going to win him a lot of things, shows high effort, constantly does a lot of different things to win off the edge. Even when that first move doesn't work, he's not afraid to try different things. Now, his counters need more work and, need more proof of concept, but he shows the effort and does those different things. And Texas lined him up off the edge. They've lined him up in the middle. They had him drop back in coverage at times. Hopefully never again. Just let him get after the quarterback. But some cons, though, to him. He's still sub 250. I like my edge rushers around that 250 range. I'm okay if you're like 248, 247, if, you're Colin Simmons or like a Micah Parsons. But I like to see him get up to about 250 as long as he can still play at that same speed. Add a little bit more strength so that way you can become a more dominant run defender. He can hold the edge. He has a good enough anchor. It's fine now. But if you want to take that next step to become like a Nick Bosa type of player where Nick's good against both, then I definitely think you want to add that little extra muscle, in the upper half and in the lower half as well. Again, needs to work on some counter moves. I think he tries things, which is good. It shows that he actually will get there at some point, but needs to continue to develop that. And really, my only other cons is just like on double teams, he can get washed a little bit, but more often than not, they're either running directly at him to slow it down, kind of like what teams have done to Micah, or they're running away from him just to avoid him outright. But Colin Simmons is an awesome football player that I'd be pretty shocked if he doesn't end up as a top 10 pick or shoot, maybe even top 5. But let's bring in B Ross here. B Ross, we both love Colin Simmons. He is both number 1 on our edge rankings. Spoiler alert, he's number 1. No shock here. What are your thoughts on Colin Simmons and some team fits? What do you think of his play style? All that stuff. The floor is yours.
Yeah, he is fun to watch because, like, like I said earlier, when he needs to be the best player on the field, to your point, versus Vandy, versus I think versus Florida, it was times where like he just took over 3 straight plays. I'm talking about he made every play. So he's a talented guy who his get off and his explosiveness and timing of his get off is so impressive. Because I just knew teams would start hard counting him, getting them off sides. It doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen as much as I think it should for for a guy that's that talented. You think he would change up the count to get him off. Teams don't do it, or teams have tried and failed. He can bend the corner. He has flexible hips and ankles. To your point, he can drop in coverage. Like he dropped a lot versus Kentucky just because the way Kentucky and Mississippi State, because they play, kind of up tempo and they want to run the ball from these spread sets, and he's dropping in the curl flat. Like he drops like a fluid moving athlete. He's an instinctive pass rusher. He knows when to make his counter, but his counter isn't clean. To your point, it's the nuances of how to set things up, how to understand when to have this counter, when to use this counter versus this tackle versus this rush. It's chess at that position. And he will get better at that because he won't be able to just rely on his pure athleticism at the next level. But with that being said, he's a freakish athlete who's explosive, who's stronger than what he probably should be for his size, and he's going to get stronger. His stuff versus the run game, he can create disruption more so than actual production because he can beat guys off the spot. He can beat guys laterally and just make the ball bounce. But he also has shown the discipline to set the edge with his hands. And to me, he's clear cut the second best player in this draft class. Spoiler alert, Jeremiah Smith is 1, and I think he's firmly cemented himself as the second best player.
Right.
But that being said, I have a hard time. I don't care who's in the top 5 next year. You can't justify 5 guys better than him next year. Maybe 2 or 3 just based on need and position value. Maybe, and those are just quarterbacks. Maybe. Even then, I think he makes your team better year 1 opposed to some quarterbacks who might struggle. This guy's super talented. Very he's very fun to watch. Like if you haven't watched his tape, watch his tape because you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, to your point, through the first 5 weeks of the season or their first 5 games of the year, he only had 2 sacks on the season. And he followed it up with Oklahoma having 4 pressures, 2 sacks. And he followed up the next week versus Kentucky, 6 pressures, 3 sacks.
Yeah.
And then down the stretch of the season, I mean, 8 total pressures versus Vanderbilt, had multiple run stuffs. The next game versus Georgia, he had a sack. He had multiple pressures. He killed Arkansas. I mean, I probably could have killed Arkansas. They were terrible last year. And Michigan, he killed them. And Texas A&M, he kicked their ass
He
too.
destroyed them. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a game versus Texas A&M, but he's the prospect to me that I don't think he's going to go 1 because I think it will be a quarterback this year. And I think 2 will probably be quarterback Jeremiah Smith. But whoever lands at 3 or 4, I think they're in prime spot for Colin Simmons. I would love to see him land in Las Vegas, letting him play next to Max Crosby, letting him learn from him, and then becoming that dude down the road. Arizona, maybe they're probably going to go quarterback, but you pair him up with Josh Sweat.
I don't want him going to Arizona.
They're like an abyss basically. But could you imagine him with Josh Sweat and Walter Nolan?
Hey,
pretty fun. I want to see him go to New Orleans. I want to see him go to New Orleans or Cleveland. Let him pair up with Jared Verse. Spoiler alert: Myles Garrett's he's not a Brown anymore.
He's a Ram now.
It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind those spots. No, absolutely not.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Absolutely not.
He's from Duncanville. Duncanville's
no. He needs to get out of Texas. Go explore a different part of the country. No, New Orleans would be a great fit, I think.
Right.
I actually would be. I actually would I would actually like to see him in like Tennessee.
True, but they just took Keldrick Falk though. Granted, very different players, but
he's not gonna play on the edge, I think. Or I think he's gonna be more DeForest Buckner than a true edge. But you talking about Keldrick Falk, Jeffrey Simmons, Colin Simmons,
Jermaine Johnson.
That is a good front four with Robert Saleh
and Anthony Hill.
I'm just saying, Tennessee, if Tennessee sucks again, because to me,
they will.
They have the quarterback. He is not the issue. Quarterback's not the issue. It's either tackle or edge rusher or corner. But I would love them to see Colin and build that front. Robert Saleh is a big fan of building the defensive front and the offensive line. So Colin Simmons to Tennessee makes a lot of sense to me.
Yep, I agree. Guys, let us know in the comment section below. Let us know in the comment section below your favorite landing spot for Colin Simmons. All right, guys, the moment is here. We're going to go through our top 10 edge rushers, 10-6, 5-1. Let's get this thing started. The 2027 NFL draft is flooded with edge rusher talent, but we got to rank them. You're up first, 10 through 6. Who do you got?
All right. At 10, I have Jordan Ross. 9, Kenyatta Jackson. 8, Damon Wilson. 7, John Henry Daly. 6, Yanze Pierre.
For me, I got 10. I got Bobacor Traore. I will learn how to say that first name. Kenyatta Jackson at 9. 8, John Henry Daly. 7, Yanze Pierre. 6, Damon Wilson. I'll let you start off with Jordan Ross, who I was really high on him, and I watched his tape, and I was like, okay, I just need more. It's almost like I have a TBD on him because just wasn't used a ton, but I think going to Lane Kiffin at LSU is going to be awesome. So, Jordan Ross, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah. Tennessee, I don't know what they have with their edge rush group. They don't like playing guys who can play for whatever reason.
Defensive line in general.
Yeah, I don't know what they have going on there, but Jordan Ross is a talented player, former 5-star player who, at this time and point, hasn't lived up to the 5-star hype. But they don't give guys the opportunity there. So, to your point, I think the LSU move was a great move for him. He's strong. He's explosive. He knows how to rush the passer, but doesn't have a real plan in terms of actually doing it. But I you see the talent. To me, talent wise, he's better than a lot of guys in this group. But to your point, he hasn't done it for an extended period of time in one season. So that's why for me he's at 10, and I see why you have a TBD. But when I just look at the plays he made, the talent, the overall talent, you talk about a guy who chased down Taylon Green, open field him and ran him down, forced a fumble, recovered it. I'm sitting there what? Okay, first off, that's impressive in itself because Taylon can run.
Yeah, well, that's why he got drafted because he can run.
Right, he can
tall, long, and run.
Move. Yeah, so like seeing plays like that, I'm like, all right, like the talent's there because he has flexibility and speed and burst. So it's just we need to see him do it more. But that's why he's at 10 for me because like I like what I saw in the limited amount of snaps. I like what I saw, but I'm talking about like he's a very intriguing prospect because I think he's better than 10. I just can't stand behind his his little 300 snaps and say that he's a top five pass rusher because that's not enough. That's not enough snaps to say he's better than the guys I have in my top five.
I'm with you. And then I'll cover. I just looked up. It's Bubakar Traore. I probably still said it wrong, but we'll have to wait
Bubakar.
and see. Let us know in the comments how you spell it. But this is a really talented football player that kind of got hit with some injuries a couple years ago. But 6'5", 250 pounds. He's getting better every single year. He's getting better and putting more to his tape. When I got to like my 10-9 spot when it comes to Traore and Kenyatta Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just ran into a big sort of cluster of players that I thought were good, but weren't great, and some just were just like good but not great in terms of they didn't have great talent, but they were just good players. And there's
Yeah.
other guys where it's like they're good players, but they have a ton of talent. These two guys, I'm taking some swings on because they have talent, size, traits that should translate to the NFL. And some of these other guys, like for example, Tatum Tuioti, arguably might be a better player, but he doesn't offer the size, athletic profile that these guys have. So that's why I went with
Right.
Bubakar, who, man, I thought he had a productive year last year. 6.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. He's 6'4", 6'5", 250 around that range. Really good explosive athlete. He gets out of his stance in a hurry. He times up snaps very well. Hit a couple snaps. I don't remember who they played. Might have been NC State, I think it was, where it looks like he's offside, but no, he's just timing the snap up very well. He's able to run down running backs. He's able to run down athletic quarterbacks. They moved him all across the defensive line, but I think he can kind of play in a 3-point stance, 2-point stance. You want to play him as a 4-3 end. You want to play him as a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think he can work. He has the traits, he has the talent, but there's still a lot of things he has to work on. He needs to add more weight to his frame. He's gotten bigger and stronger every year, but his power profile is just not great. He gets stonewalled way too often. A lot of his wins are because of the athleticism, the physical frame, the timing of the snap, and just catching guys off guards. So it can lead to some really flashy plays. But then there's also a lot of times where he'll go 5 straight snaps of him not really making an impact out there because he just doesn't have the strength to anchor. He doesn't have the power to, break the hands of a tackle. I wonder if he would have went up against Carter Smith. I feel like Carter Smith would have kicked his ass the whole game because Carter Smith has vice grip hands. So that would have been a tough matchup for him. But there's an athletic profile here and an upside where it's like if he can just get a little bit stronger, stand out a little bit more against the run, and continue to add refinement to some of the tools he has as a pass rusher, I think we're talking about somebody who can rise up boards. I don't know if he'll be a first round talent, and I wouldn't mind seeing him be a 5-year guy. He's already spent 3 years in college. I wouldn't mind seeing him be a 5th-year guy that continues to grow. But if he has a big year, he might have in my top 10 because I like the talent. The talent and traits are really tantalizing, but he's still got a ways to go. So we'll keep an eye on him. But let's talk about Kenyatta Jackson, who we both have at 9. And man, he was on a tear to end the season. Another one of these like traitsy, big, athletic guys, but I think he gives you a power profile that Traore doesn't. So I'll let you talk about him. Kenyatta Jackson out of Ohio State should be his defensive line room now because there's no Caden Curry, no Arvell Reese, and Caden McDonald's gone too. So this should be his unit now.
This is his year to show that he can be the guy. This is year to show that he can be more productive as a pass rusher because he doesn't have a lot of sacks throughout his career. So this is his time to show that he can be a dominant pass rusher. You talking about a guy with size, length. He's fairly explosive for his size. Like he can get off the ball, but where he excels is in the run game. Like he's strong at the point of attack. He can handle double teams. Like he's mean. He's violent. Like to me, he also offers some position flex in terms of playing inside. Granted, when he does it, he's not the best at it because he plays kind of high in the run game, especially. But as a pass rusher, as an interior pass rusher, I think he's a guy who relies on his strength. and it works for him in college. I don't know if that's going to translate directly to the NFL because even the slowest footed guy is strong at the least. So to me, he has to learn how to rush the passer in terms of using his hands. He bends well for a guy that's 6'5", probably 265. Like he bends very well. Um, he plays with good energy, good effort, consistently. It's just I don't think he knows how to rush the passer. Which like not saying like he's not being coached. He doesn't have a knack for just understanding how to set up pass rushing moves, how to utilize his strength to his ability. Like his go-to move is just straight bull rush. In college, he
Right.
gets away with it, but NFL guys love a bull rushing guy because they can stop that. It's easier to stop than the guy who can win on edges. So he has to learn how to win on edges consistently without the stunts and the blitzes. But he's a super talented guy with some upside because he has very long arms. Like his arms going to measure 34 inches easily. I have a hard time with anything less than that. Maybe 35. Like he has very long arms. Like, and that comes into play, and it helps. Like we'll talk about a guy later who has similar length, but he's a better pass rusher because he knows how to use the length to help create separation from tackles. But Kenyatta Jackson, he's strong, he's physical, and at the least, you're getting a good run defender. At the very least, you're getting a good run
Right.
defender. But
Yeah.
but this year is his year to kind of prove that I'm a real guy. I'm not Robin to Batman. I have the ability to be Batman. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays, but he's a talented guy with some upside for sure.
All right, I will talk about Damon Wilson, and then I'll let you talk about John Henry Daly afterwards.
Let's
Damon
do it.
Wilson, 6'4", 250 pounds, transferred from Missouri to the Miami Hurricanes, and honestly, I think it's
Still,
a great landing spot for him to get to. He's
yeah,
a high level pass rusher, plays with a great motor, has some go to moves he can get to. He's long, he's lengthy. I think his frame could add on a little bit more weight. He's kind of an olderish player. He's been in college for a few years now, but he still maybe could add a little bit more size to his frame. But he is very one dimensional right now as a player. He is a great pass rusher, but a very below average run
yeah,
defender. So the reason why I'm a little higher on him and I have him at 6, even though I really like Jan Pierre, and I thought I was going to be high on him, but you're one ahead of me on him. I think going to Miami is going to be a great landing spot for him. Being able to, go to a
yeah,
system that it's if you can't play the run, they won't play you. So I think it's almost mandatory that he becomes a competent run defender. Because I think he shows the effort. I think he does try. I don't think it's for a lack of effort necessarily. I think it's just more so just a lack of an anchor, or a lack of just pure strength. Like he gets double teamed, he's getting moved off the line. He can't really set the edge the same way that some of his other guys can. I think as he continues to develop in Miami specifically, I think he could grow that stuff out. Teams are going to
yeah,
like him just off the pass rushing stuff, and I think that could get him drafted early on in the draft. But I am intrigued to see if maybe the run defense does bring him down a little bit in favor of some of these other guys ahead of him, who everyone in my top 5 I think is a much better run defender. Even though I think
yeah,
Damon Wilson arguably is maybe the third best pure pass rusher in this class. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. Maybe fourth or fifth, one
yeah.
of those in those range. But
He's in the
in terms
top
of the run
five
defender,
as it
he's for sure
just as a pure pass
as a
rusher.
pass rusher,
Yeah,
straight pass rusher.
yeah,
He's a top 5 in this class. But as a run defender, he's like well below average right now. So he's got to clean that up. But he is a high upside edge prospect that it's like worst case scenario, you get a DPR guy with size and length that could survive on rundowns. But that's, I think, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, he develops and becomes a competent run defender, and Miami gets the most out of him, which is why I love the fit in Miami. So I'm betting on that, and I have him at 6, but I think it wouldn't surprise me if at season's end he's like 4th or 5th on my list. I think that would be,
yeah,
I think that is a likely outcome if he does develop properly. But that's Damon Wilson. I'm going to load you up here. John Henry Daly, coming off a torn Achilles, older prospect, went from BYU to Utah. A lot of questions, but going to Michigan is going to answer a couple of them. Well, you have John at 7. I have him at 8. And I got to be honest with you, I heavily consider taking him off my top 10 just because of the Achilles injury. But if he's the same guy he was last year, this guy is pretty darn good. So, Henry Daly, what do you think of him?
yeah. So like I definitely thought about kind of like leaving him off because of the injury, but then I'm like, one, everyone who goes to BYU or Utah. All of them are old because of the missions and all that stuff. So, all right, I'm getting a seasoned pro at this point, and this is a King Mesidor all over again, right?
He might be older.
Well, there
No.
you go. He got one contract now. But you're talking about a guy who has been there. He's he's a bit smaller in terms of his weight because he's what 6'4", about 245 to 250 somewhere in there. So he does have a smaller frame, but he can bend the corner. He can run the hoop. He was productive last year before his season ending injury. You talk about a guy who, again, like he's not a premier athlete per se, but he knows how to rush the passer. I think he has very good, some of the better hand usage in terms of timing his hands up with tackles and playing with consistent hand use in this class. Like he does a good job with his hands, which is pivotal for being an edge rusher in the run and pass game. He plays with a hot motor all the time. Like the first quarter, fourth quarter, you can't tell because he plays with the same type of energy. He brings energy to that front every time. I think going to Michigan will actually probably raise his stock if he comes back healthy and plays well because he's going against better tackles on a more consistent basis in terms of the Big Ten. He plays with good pad level in the running pass game. He knows how to play. He's just not physically gifted as some other guys, but he knows how to play within himself. Like the biggest difference is, to me, is just like he's just not a premier athlete in terms of speed and explosiveness. But he's a good football player who knows how to play the game, knows how to rush the passer. Um, doesn't have and like a super array of moves. He does have a spin move that it works. It is about as reliant as your insurance company. Like he's going to go to it multiple times in the game and he's going to make plays. You know it's coming. Tackles see it's coming and still can't stop it. Once he developed moves off that spin move and counters and things like that, I think he'll be even better. He's really good in the run game in terms of reading and reacting. He plays with effort in the run game. He's strong at the point of attack, even though he's a kind of a kind of an undersized guy compared to some other guys who we've talked about and who we will talk about. But I think he's a really good football player who has a high floor, low ceiling, which is perfectly fine because I think that's a reliable pro more times than not. His thing is just going to be, is he the same guy that you see on tape in 2025 coming off that Achilles injury? If he is, then I think he's going to be minimum top 7 pass rusher in this class. If he's not the same guy, then that's a different conversation. But he's a good, instinctive football player whom, as he lacks upside, at least you know what you're getting. To me, like you know exactly what you're getting, down in and down out, with the ability to be a 3-down player over time.
Yeah, I'm trying to find his age. I'm seeing like all these different numbers. I've seen 23, I've seen 21, I've seen 22. I'm like doing the math in my head. He's class of 2021. I was class of 2020. So I'm 20, about to be 24. So he's got to be at least 22, right?
So he's, yeah, minimum. I can, matter of fact, let's see.
Yeah. I don't know. He's one of those two, but that's John Henry Daly. He's got a spin move, man. That guy loves the spin move. It's kind of
Love this
funny, and
thing.
it's like, okay, is that going to translate to the NFL? But it works in college, so that's John Henry Daly. I'll talk about Yanze
Keep
Pierre,
diving.
and then we'll get to our top fives after that. Yanze Pierre, somebody who coming into watching his film, I was very excited to watch it because I saw a little bit of it last year
Mm-hmm.
in preparation that he might end up declaring for last year's class, but I really like the fact that he went back to college because I think one more year and we can really start to see the best of Yanze Pierre. 6'3", 248 pounds. He's kind of a ball of muscle. Like he's just dense. He's just really well put together. They use him a little bit at
Yep.
linebacker. They use him a little bit off the edge. The reason why I couldn't put him higher than Damon Wilson is that I felt like Yanze didn't have a ton of clean wins, like just straight up one-on-one you versus tackle, who's going to win. I felt like he maybe had he had a
Fair.
couple of them on tape, but I'm talking about ones that were converted into sacks. A lot of his sack production is coming off
Yeah.
stunts, coming off blitzes, coming inside
Stunts
different
and yeah,
gaps, not
that's
really just
fair.
coming out and just exactly right. So that's why I had him a little bit lower, but I still think this guy's great, man. I think He can set the edge. He's a really good run defender. He offers some versatility. I think he can just kind of be a weapon for your defense. You want him to play some off ball. You want to put him in the A or B gap. I think he can survive there on obviously passing downs. But he's strong. He's got a good anchor. He's powerful. He's physical. He shows a little nasty at times. His issues is that I just don't think he's like the most nuanced pass rusher yet. Like I think he doesn't have a go-to counter move. I think most of his like pass rush tools are still growing and developing. And so getting back into the year at Bama should be good. His bend around the corner is good, not great. I just want to see him put it together this year because I see somebody who has good production, clearly can win out there, has some really good and impressive snaps out there. It's kind of flashes right now, and I just want to see a bit more consistency throughout the entire season. And I want to just see some more clean wins off the edge. Like I don't want to see. Obviously, they're going to stun him. They're going to do all sorts of fun, gadgety stuff with him, which you should.
Right.
You just want to get the most out of him. But I just want to see him consistently win off the edge. I think his pass rush win rate was like 12.5%, something like that. I want to see that get up to like 19, 18% or better if you can. And then we're talking about a legitimately like top 5 level guy. Because I think the talent's there. I think he is an awesome football player that I just want to see just more clean edge stuff. And if he can do that, he'll probably end up in my top 5. So that is Jan Zapier. Let's do our top 5s. I'll let you go first and then I'll follow.
Top five, top five, top five. At 5, I have Clev Lubin. 4, Will Helt. 3, Dylan Stewart. 2, Mateo. And 1, Colin Simmons. I'm
We
not
have the
going to do
same
that to
name,
his
just
name.
different order. No, I don't blame you. 5, I got Will Helt. 4, Clev Lubin. 3, Mateo Uiagalelei. 2, Dylan Stewart. And 1, Colin Simmons. So we have the same number 1, and we have like the same order, just kind of flipped in certain spots.
Flipped. Yep.
Let's start with Will Helt. I'll let you go on Will first because you have him at 4 and I have him at 5. And I really liked Will, but the pad level stuff really was concerning for me. But there's still a lot to like about him, and he was very productive on a defensive line that was pretty talented last year. Where are you at with Will Helt? Because he is inside both our top 5s.
Yeah. I like Will a little bit more because he reminded me of a guy I scouted in Anthony Nelson, who's going on year 8, I think, for the Bucks. Literally similar profile, 6'6", 265, close, 270, somewhere in that range. But Will Helt is strong as an ox. Like he does play high, but he gets away with it because he's so strong. But to me, he does a really good job of using his length and using what God gave him to his advantage. A lot of guys have long arms and don't know what to do with them. They don't know where to put their hands. You ever seen Step Brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you remember the scene where Will Ferrell was like, "What do I do with? What do I?" That's what a lot of guys with long arms look like. Like they ask that question. Will Helt doesn't have those concerns. He's just more like, "Oh, I know exactly what to do. Long arm, and if you anchor, I'm pulling you through and I'm ripping through." He's an instinctive pass rusher who understands how to get to the level, counter back inside. And for a guy his size, he's not as like usually guys that size are stiff. Like they struggle to bend. I think he bends fairly well when he actually does bend because he does play high, especially in the run game at times. But that's also where his versatility lies. The guy who can play as a 3-4 end, he can play as a 4-3 end, but he can rush inside, he can rush outside. He just offers position flexibility in the midst of him not being the most flexible athlete. But to me, he's one of those guys where if he can duplicate or put up more better numbers than he did last year with Peter Woods and TJ, with like if he can duplicate those numbers, he can justify being a top 5 edge rusher because it helped having two other 5-stars on your D line. Like it helps to have talent always, but he's the guy. I think his best football is ahead of him. Honestly, it's just going to be a matter of where he plays, like down in and down out, because Clemson moved him around like a good bit. They have him stand up, they have him 4 down, they move him inside the 3 tech at times for like passing situations. So how he gets comfortable at the next level and where he plays at the next level will, to me, dictate his ceiling. because if he just asked to do one thing, I think he can do it. But I think value lies in the fact that he can be an interior pass rusher and not be 300 plus pounds, not be 295. Like he can be a different kind of body and body type interior on the interior D line and be a problem because he is strong. He has long arms and knows how to use them, and he's violent. I love violent players. I'm talking about. I love those guys because as a former defender, I don't want to deal with the violence of all that. I just love seeing it. I love it. So when I see it on tape, I always appreciate it. Maybe sometimes a little bit too much, but Will Hill is violent as hell, and I always appreciate that.
100%. Clev Lubin, who I have at 4 and you have at 5.
Ooh,
So I watched how to do the order. I watched the Clemson game first, and I believe he like smoked Blake Miller on like the second play of the game. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's pretty good. And the rest of the game, he was mostly good. And then I watched his second game. I think it was versus, I want to say it was Florida. Maybe it was not Florida State. It was some good team, and he was good. So I went from like good to a little bit better, and then he played Miami, and I was like, shit, he's kind of kicking Francis Marino's ass sometimes. And so I was like, okay, this Cleve Lubin guy just got better and better, and just watched the rest of the tape. Pretty damn good stuff from Cleve. I think I couldn't put him higher than 4 because he doesn't have like an elite trait right now because he's not a big dude. He's around 6'3", 250. So he's just kind of that. He's not like a speedster, or he's not super explosive, but he has enough of it, right? Doesn't have the best bend around the corner, but he's got enough. But I think he's just very technical. I think he's very nuanced. I think he's very smart. Like his ability to just know and locate where the ball is really impressive. He'll hawk down running backs that are on sweeps. He'll run down screens. He'll run down play action. They drop him in coverage, and he's actually good in coverage, like surprisingly good. And I just feel like he's a floor raiser. He doesn't give you a super high ceiling. I don't think he's going to be the most productive player in the NFL, but I think he's going to be a dude that just kind of hangs around the league for multiple seasons because he's got a good set of moves he can work with. You know, he can refine some things here and there, and there's still room to grow. But I just think his floor is like good rotational edge rusher, and his ceiling is like potential like Robin to your Batman. And some of these other guys below him, I just have a lot of questions about them. I don't really have a ton of questions about Cleve Lubin. I just think he's a solid football player that has good production, has enough size and athleticism and movement skills, but technically and mentally speaking, I think it's all like pro ready. So I came away just every single game, just like, okay, this is really good. This is really good. And there wasn't a ton of bad in there. Like I never felt like Cleve Lubin got bullied, got put in the dirt and got embarrassed. He got like, I think it was, he got put on the ground once, but he slipped. So I was like, he's just a good football player that I think can translate the game quite well. So I put him at 4. I think he's very talented, and you know, he's again not the highest ceiling guy on this class. In fact, I think everyone below him in my list has a higher ceiling, but I think his floor is a lot higher than a lot of these other guys. So I like Cleve Lubin quite a bit.
Does he remind you of anybody?
Man, see, I wanted to do. I was thinking about that. Kind of remind me a little bit of maybe a shorter Zion Young in some ways. Maybe a little Derek Moore in there too. Some of the guys from last year kind of remind me a little bit of them. I've seen like there's some reps where it's like, okay, that reminds me a little bit of R. Mason Thomas. Like you could just kind of pull some of those guys from last year, and you're like, I see a little bit of this, I see a little bit of that. I think Zion Young but shorter is kind of who my comparison would be to.
I can see that. One? I can see why you say that. No, that was my like. I couldn't. Right. I was trying to when I was watching him, like, who does he kind of remind me of? But he to your point, because he doesn't have like a go-to trait. Like nothing. Everything is kind of like above average and good, but nothing like where you're like, oh my god, it excels. But he knows how to rush the passer. I think he has pretty good length for his size. Like. You know what I mean? Like, he just knows how to rush the passer and play football. What's up?
When I watched the Clemson tape, it was the first game I watched. And I looked at him, I was like, he looks short. Like, he looks like 6'1", 6'2". I think he is 6'3" because the more I watched him, the more I was like, maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe he is just 6'3". Did you ever like look at him and go,
Right.
I don't know if he's 6'3"? Because there's some like maybe it's
I
just
don't
Blake Miller because
know.
Blake Miller's
Like,
fucking huge, but
it's
yeah, it was
tall.
weird.
It was like a real tall man. Yeah. No, that's a fair point because I looked at him a couple of times. It's like I don't six like I think he's gonna measure 6'0", like 2'5", 6'0", 2'7", somewhere in there. But I think
Right.
his arms are abnormally long for his body. So I think that's why it doesn't look as like it doesn't look like he's like severely short. But to me, he
Right.
does look shorter than six. I don't. He
Yeah.
is not 6'3". I have a hard time believing that watching the tape. Um, but
Yeah. I
yeah,
like watched that
just
Clemson tape and I'm like, man, he looks so short out there. By
he
the way,
looks
Louisville, they got
so
some
short.
dudes on that defensive line. Louisville's got some
Yes, they
dudes.
do.
AJ Green, I think his
They
name
are
is. He's
talented.
fucking awesome.
AJ Green, yeah,
Yeah, they are.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're super talented,
All right.
super talented, but no one knows because it's Louisville.
It's Louisville. All right. Top three. I'll let you go with I'll let you do Mateo since you have
Who
him
you
at two
want
and I
to
have him
do?
at three.
All
I'll
right,
do Dylan Stewart. So I'll let you go
all
to
right, cool.
Mateo.
Yeah, Mateo he was a fun watch, and like we watched him last year because we thought he was going to come out this past season. I think he was in my
Right.
top 7, top 6 maybe. But to me, he's one of those guys where he's similar to shoot, drawing a blank to the tackle from Iowa. In terms of I just know what I'm getting, and I'm good with that.
Jennings.
Like as
Not
good.
Jennings Dunker.
Who am I thinking about?
Trevor
Talking
Locke.
from this past class, guys.
Trevor Locke.
Trevor Locke. Like he reminds me
Yeah.
of him in that way. Like I know what I'm getting, and I'm really good with that. Where to your point with Clef Lubin, I think he has a high floor, and I think his ceiling's moderately high. Nothing crazy. I like if he has a All Pro season, 1 maybe 2, because he has high sack numbers. I can see it because he knows how to rush the passer. He's like it's very little holes in his game in terms of knowing how to do things. The holes in his game come from the fact that he's 6'5", 270. He's not as explosive as a Simmons or a Stewart. He's not as quick. He can't bend as well because he's a different body type. Similar to Will Help, though, he offers position versatility. He's a guy you can line up inside. You feel really good about that because he's strong at the point of attack. He's not a guy who gets bullied in the run game. He can defeat blockers with his hand. He knows how to use his hands in the running pass game. He plays stout. He plays with pretty good pad level. He can get high at times, but that's normal with taller pass rushers. But more times than not, he plays with pretty good pad level. Like Mateo in last year's class to me was he looked like just a guy compared to some other guys because they were really good. Like the top 4 or 5, they were really good at rushing the passer. The more I watched him, the more I realized he is good at rushing the passer, but it's because he knows how to rush, not because of his physical traits and attributes. It's because he's a nuanced pass rusher, knows how to use his hands and plays with good timing with his hands and feet. He's looser in the hips than you want to give him credit for. He can run the corner and bend. It's just not as pretty as Dylan Stewart or a Colin Simmons because those are smaller bodies. But to me, he's a guy that you just feel really good about in terms of he can fit in multiple schemes. He can play on 3 downs. You trust him in the run. You trust him in the pass. I think he should be an 8 to 12 sack guy year in and year out because he knows how to rush the passer. And guys like that tend to last longer than the guy with athleticism because guys who rely on their athleticism, if they don't learn how to rush the passer, that you lose your athleticism as you grow older. Mateo doesn't really have it, so he doesn't have to rely on it. He relies on his smarts, his instincts, and just knowing how to do certain things at a high level. So he was fun to watch again, just because I didn't see what I saw the first. I saw so many more different things the second time I watched him, and watching multiple games and watching him versus watching him versus Carter Smith, several like watching him versus some really good tackles, you see that, oh, okay, he knows how to play those guys differently because they're different style tackles. They play differently. So I love that about him. But I think he's a guy where ultimately I can see guys jumping him, but is no way he's not in my top five. I have a hard time believing he's not in my top five when we do this in March and April of next year.
100%. I got Dylan Stewart at 2. You have him at 3. I think Simmons is our number 1, and I do think Simmons is in a, I don't want to say a different tier than these guys, but he's a better prospect right now. Stewart
Yep.
has the potential and talent to put himself in that same conversation. 6'5", 245, so he's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer than Colin Simmons. I don't think he carries his weight as well as Colin does. I think Colin is pretty well compact, well put together. He still can put on another 5 or 10 pounds. Stewart, in my opinion, does like he has to put on that extra little bit of weight. Simmons could, and it would benefit him, but he doesn't like have to. I think he can still translate what he does now to the NFL. Stewart has to get bigger, right? He has to add on.
Yep.
If he's 245 today, he needs to get up to about 255, 260. I think that would benefit him a ton. Some of the things that Dylan Stewart does, you just simply cannot teach, right? His bend around the corner, his explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, the flashes that he showed his freshman and even at times his sophomore season, it's stuff that can't be replicated by just the average person, right? Or the average prospect or player.
He's
freaky.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's freaky. Like he is genuinely like a freak of nature at times, but he's got to improve against the run. Number, he's got to stay healthy. That's the most important thing. He's going to be able to play the full season and not be hindered. He's got to play the run better. Like South Carolina should not have to take him out on run downs. He should be able to play all those downs. He needs to just continue to add more size and length. We talked about it. He's 245 pounds, but he's 6'5". He's just very long and wiry. He looks a little skinny out there. I want to see him bulk up a little bit more. I'm not going to compare him to Myles Garrett, but Myles Garrett has ballooned up to be like a 270, 265 guy. I'm not saying he needs to get that big, but like I think that sort of trajectory where Myles Garrett's always been massive and bigger than everyone, but if he can continue to get bigger and bigger to where he can kind of resemble him a little bit, I think that'd be great for him. But he's got a long way to go. I think he needs a bit more time to develop and get where he needs to get to, but I think he should be in for a big year next year, more continuity with that South Carolina system, pack on a little bit more weight, show out a little bit more against the run, stay healthy, and show off the incredible pass rush stuff you can do. He does that, he's going to be a top 15 pick in next year's class. He's got all the talent in the world. I mean, his freshman year, we were talking him, Jeremiah Smith, Colin Simmons, like these guys are all in the same bucket. Stewart had a bit of a down year last year, so I want to see him get back into that bucket, but he is a fantastic talent that just needs to get healthy, to get right, put on that proper weight. And he's going to be somebody where if he does go into next year's class, I cannot wait to see the measurables in this guy because college measurements, they're not the most reliable thing in the world. And I'm so excited to see if Stewart can get up to a certain number. Exactly. I want to see his exact numbers, his arm length and stuff like that, because from a bird's eye view on all 22, it looks good. He just needs to put on a little bit more weight. So that's Dylan Stewart, but he's not our number 1 because at number 1 is the Texas Longhorn man himself, former 5-star Colin Simmons. B-Rush, what are your thoughts on Colin Simmons? Number 1 on both our boards, number 2 overall in our big board. Where are you at with him?
I'm going to make this quick. Colin Simmons is the second best player in this entire draft. That's how good he is. And if he plays how he did the last half of the season all year, it's going to be arguments for him being the number 1. I'm calling it because pass rusher is way more important than receiver. But you're talking about a guy who's explosive, quick, he can bend, he's flexible in his hips, ankles, and knees. He's really good versus the run, though he can be better on a more consistent basis. But as a pass rusher, this dude is a problem. It doesn't matter how you're kind of built. He knows how to beat guys with his athleticism. Crazy part is, I don't think he knows how to rush the passer like down in and down out in terms of just like the nuances of hands and feet and clubbing and ripping. Though he can win multiple ways, sometimes it just looks like he's reacting based on what he gets in the moment. But it's a damn good reaction. With that being said, if this guy develops a consistent rush plan, he is going to be scary good. Like, I'm talking about 15 to 20 sack guy, highest paid player type stuff. Like it's all aligning for him to do that. But he has to show that he can do that in college for a full year. Last year he started off slow and then it got better and he became more dominant. Like you saw the 5-star. He has to be a 5-star guy versus Ohio State game 1 all the way through to whatever Texas does this year. But he is supremely talented. He can drop in space. He can drop and spy the quarterback. He did it versus Arkansas. He did it versus Texas A&M versus 2 quarterbacks who can really run. He was a spy, not a safety, not a linebacker. Texas has plenty of guys who can run. They put their best pass rusher. They pulled him out of the rush and said, "You go get the quarterback." Like he's that talented.
To your point, Texas has a Jelani McDonald who's like the perfect, you would think, spy guy. They're like, they're like Colin Simmons is
Colin
maybe
Simmons,
a little bit better. Right, exactly. Not to mention Anthony Hill is too. He's a freaky athlete.
Anthony Hill's there. The young kid who's a sophomore.
Linebacker. I know, I'm blanking on
the other linebacker. Ty Anthony? Is it Ty Anthony?
Ty Anthony Smith. Yep, Ty Anthony Smith.
Like, they have guys on the back 2 levels who can run, like, can blaze. They were like, no. Colin Simmons, come out this rush, stack the quarterback, go get him. And he did it successfully because he's a very gifted athlete. If I had to be critical of anything in his game, it would just be him playing consistently from game 1 to the end, because he started so slow to start the year. He started very slow, and you can tell that it was a challenge to him because once he got going, he looked like a Corvette moving on a racetrack, and you couldn't stop. Nothing you could do. It was so impressive. So he's at 1 for me. I have a hard time believing he's going to be anywhere else but 1 and 2 overall, because the talent matches the traits match the tape, and the tape matches the production. Like, everything lines up for him to be a really good football player at the next level. I'm interested to see, where do you think is a good fit for him? Like, where do you kind of see where, like, if you have to give like 1 or 2 teams where he fits in, what would those be?
Las Vegas. I think that'd be a good fit. I would love. Let's see. Indianapolis Colts. Paramount with Latu.
Ooh,
that would be pretty nice. They could use that little speed on the edge.
Good pick. They will have to suck this year, but anything's possible.
Who else? If TJ Watt's off Pittsburgh, he's not going to make it that far. He won't make it that far.
No, because Pittsburgh's going to be a 9-10 win team.
Right. You got to think 20. He's got to be top 10 at the worst.
At the worst. So he's not going to Dallas. That's out. Go ahead, get that out.
Well, never say never. Jerry Jones will make it happen. Tennessee Titans. You brought that up earlier. I was like, yeah, Tennessee's a good fit for him, because they've addressed the defensive line a ton, but it's like,
yeah,
you ain't got a Colin Simmons, right? You don't got Colin.
Where I think he's going to end up is Miami. I have the strange feeling. I have the strange feeling.
Getting his guy.
Yeah, have to go get a stud, and then, because like Malik Willis isn't the answer, but if he plays moderately well, you're not drafting a quarterback, so you can pay him a bunch of money to sit. Like, you're not. So you're paying 2 guys. I can see them paying Colin Simmons to be the guy on that defense, build a defense around him and his ability, because he can drop, he can rush, he can, like, it's not too much he can't do physically. That's the thing, and like, we've seen him do it. So yeah, but I like those teams. I really like Vegas. I really like that Vegas.
Him with Max
That's a
Crosby.
good call. Oh my god, with
nice.
Kobe Dean, Quay Walker behind him. Yeah, that would be real.
They could also use Leonard Moore too, but maybe if Jerron McCoy's awesome, then
they could use a lot. It's the Raiders, so that's not saying much, but yeah.
True that. All right, y'all. Let us know in the comment section below your top 10. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let us know down below. All right, B-Ross, that was our edge rushers video. And we've now done what? Quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, tackles, and now edge rushers. So if you guys haven't seen our other ones, make sure you guys check those ones out, where you can see all our top 10s and all that stuff. We got plenty more to get through. We still have linebackers next week. We got corners. We got tight ends. We'll get to some tackles and safeties, and maybe some guards and centers if we're if we get to that point. But yeah, again, let us know your top 10 edge rushers. Check out those other videos. B-Ross, get us out of here.
Hey, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video, on our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the above. Head over to firstand10.net. Build your own board. Write your own reports. Tell us why we're wrong, but do it with evidence because you've done the work. Either way, we appreciate the love and support. Be sure to tune in next week. And until next time, peace.